For years, my life was a quiet, unchanging routine. I'd wake with the dawn, brew a single cup of tea, and sit in the silence of my small apartment. Then came work, a place of muted keyboards and polite nods. After work, I'd return to the same silence, cook a meal for one, and let the television fill the empty space. Friends were a distant concept, and family conversations were rare and brief. My home was my fortress, a safe harbor, but its walls were built of loneliness. My name is Emma, and I was 32 when my life was interrupted by a man named Noah. I thought I was ready for love. I was profoundly wrong. I met him at a dinner party I almost didn't attend. My neighbor, a kind woman named Carol, had insisted. The gathering was small, just 6 of us. He was the quiet one, seated across from me. When I sat down, he offered a gentle smile that reached his eyes. His name was Noah. His voice was calm, his manners impeccable. We spoke of simple things, the kind of safe topics you discuss with strangers. The unpredictable spring weather, the surprisingly good food, the soft music playing in the background. I felt an ease in his presence that was unfamiliar to me. 2 days later, a message appeared on my phone. It was him. He asked if I would like to get coffee. I said yes. At a small, sunlit cafe, he leaned forward, his focus entirely on me. "I want to know more about you," he said, and I felt a warmth spread through my chest. It was a novel feeling to be seen, to be the subject of someone's genuine curiosity. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind of quiet affection. He would appear on my street just as I was leaving for work. He'd wait for me outside my office building in the evenings. He held my hand as we walked, his thumb tracing small circles on my palm. He had a way of looking at me when I spoke that made me feel like I was the only person in the world. After a month, he looked at me with earnest eyes and said, "I want to be with you. Only you." My heart, so long dormant, fluttered to life. I said yes, believing every syllable. In the beginning, Noah was the picture of kindness. He called every day just to ask if I had eaten. He brought me small, thoughtful gifts, a beautiful pen, a book by an author I'd mentioned once. When I caught a cold, he appeared at my door with a thermos of homemade soup. When a sudden chill swept through the city, he gave me a soft wool scarf. He smiled often and told me I was beautiful, even on days when I felt tired and worn. I told my best friend, Sarah, "He's different. He's a good man." But around the 4-month mark, a subtle shift occurred. The calls stopped coming first. My messages would be seen, but his replies came hours later. His excuse was always the same. "I'm busy, work is hard." I wanted to be understanding, so I said, "Okay." One Friday night, we had plans to watch a movie at my place. I cooked his favorite pasta. I lit a candle. I waited. An hour passed, then 2. He never came. My calls went to voicemail. My texts went unanswered. Late that night, a single message arrived. "Was tired, fell asleep." There was no apology, no sense of care, just a statement. Still, I said nothing. I told myself he was just exhausted, that he needed space. But the pattern repeated. He would arrive late for dates or cancel at the last minute. If I asked about his day, he'd sigh and say, "Stop asking so many questions." So I asked less. I became quieter, trying to be the easy, undemanding girlfriend I thought he wanted. One afternoon, walking home, I saw him near a cafe. He was with another woman. They were laughing, a joyful, easy sound. She playfully touched his arm. I froze, my grocery bag suddenly feeling like a block of lead. My heart didn't break, it just felt heavy and cold. He didn't see me, or perhaps he did and it didn't matter. I turned and walked home, my legs aching with a speed I didn't know I had. I locked the door and slid down to the floor, not crying, just sitting in the deafening noise of my own thoughts. I felt utterly lost. That night I stared at my phone, the question, who was she, burning on my fingertips, but I didn't send it. The next day he called, his voice cheerful. "Hey, how are you?" My own voice was flat. "Who was the woman at the cafe?" A pause. Then, "You saw me." "Yes," I said. He laughed, a short, dismissive sound. "You always think too much. She's just a friend from work." I asked the question that had been lodged in my throat. "Do you love me?" His reply was cold. "Why do you always need to hear the words?" I said nothing. I ended the call. I made tea and sat by the window, watching the gray sky. It mirrored how I felt inside. That weekend was a long stretch of silence from him. I waited, my phone a dead weight in my hand. I remembered his first smile, the warmth of the soup, the softness of the scarf. Where did that man go? Was he ever real? I looked at my reflection and saw a woman with tired eyes, a woman who had given her love so freely and received only pain in return. "Why are you still waiting?" I asked myself. I didn't want to wait anymore. The next day I began to clean. Under my bed I found a small box filled with his gifts, the pen, a simple bracelet, a photo of us. I looked at each item one by one. There were no tears. I closed the box and pushed it back into the darkness. That evening, a message from him arrived. "Want to meet this week?" I stared at the screen. I didn't answer. A few minutes later, another message. "Are you free?" I powered my phone off. I made myself a simple dinner. I put on soft, instrumental music. I ate slowly, tasting every bite. I breathed deeply. For the first time in months, I wasn't waiting for his words. I didn't need them. I went to bed early and slept without dreams. The next morning, I woke up, made tea, and as I sat by the window, a small, genuine smile touched my lips. He had taken my love for granted, but he would not take another piece of me. I had given him my time, my care, my heart. Now it was time to give myself peace. Before I continue my story, I just want to take a moment. If you are listening, wherever you are in the world, knowing that someone hears my voice gives me strength. The next morning, I woke early and made my tea. I opened the window, letting the cool morning air fill my lungs. My phone remained off. The silence in my apartment was no longer lonely. It was peaceful. For 3 days, I lived without it. I didn't see his name. I didn't check for messages. I was trying to remember the person I was before him. I changed my bedsheets, played my favorite music, and cooked nourishing meals for myself. I walked to work instead of taking the bus, noticing the details of the world around me. I was healing. When I finally turned my phone back on, there were 6 messages from him. They were short, demanding. "Where are you? Why are you ignoring me?" The last one read, "Okay, do what you want." I read them and felt a profound nothingness. No anger, no pain, just a quiet void. I deleted them all. 2 days later, he was at my door. I watched him from my window as he knocked, waited for 5 minutes, and then left. I sat in my kitchen, perfectly still. I didn't cry. That night, I called my friend Sarah. We met at a cafe. "Emma, you look tired," she said gently. I smiled a little. "I'm feeling okay now." And then I told her everything. The little neglects, the cold replies, the woman at the cafe, the deep ache in my chest. She listened, holding my hand across the table. "You loved him," she said softly, "but he didn't love you back in the way you deserved." A single tear escaped, but with it came a sense of release. "You are stronger now," she said. I smiled back, believing her. The days after felt lighter. Some mornings were still hard, haunted by the ghost of his voice or the memory of his touch. But I would remind myself of a line I had written in my journal. I was not too much. He simply gave too little. One Sunday, I took the small box of his things to the park. I found a rubbish bin near a cluster of old trees. I opened the box one last time, looked at the pen, the bracelet, the photo. I took a deep breath and let them fall into the darkness. I walked away and did not look back. At work, I began to emerge from my shell. I joined colleagues for lunch. I smiled more. People noticed. A man from the next apartment, Ben, was particularly kind. He always said hello, held the door, and had a smile that was genuine, reaching his eyes. One day, he asked if I'd like to join him and a few others for lunch. I hesitated, but then I said yes. We talked about simple things. He was easy to be around. He didn't ask for my number or say flattering things. He just listened. After he said, "I'm glad you came." "Me too," I replied, and I meant it. A week later, a message from Noah appeared. "I miss you. Can we talk?" I stared at it. A part of me, the part that still remembered the good days, wanted to reply. But my heart, wiser now, said no. He missed the girl who waited, the girl who accepted his crumbs of affection. That girl was gone. I deleted the message. 2 days later, I ran into him in town. He looked surprised. "Emma," he walked toward me, "you look different." "I feel different," I said, my voice steady. "You didn't answer my message," he said, his eyes on the ground. "I know. I'm sorry," he finally said. I nodded. "I hope you find what you're looking for." "Can we try again?" he asked, a hopeful note in his voice. I offered him a small, sad smile. "No, Noah, I already tried." I turned and walked away, feeling not triumphant, but free. Back home, I made tea. My heart still bore the faint outlines of scars, but it was beating for me now. The next day at work, Ben smiled at me. "Want to sit outside during lunch?" he asked. "Yes," I said, "I'd like that." It was enough. I wasn't looking for a grand romance. I was looking for kindness. But first, I had to learn to be kind to myself. I chose peace. I chose respect. I chose me. The days that followed were soft. The constant anxiety in my chest had dissolved. My mornings were mine again, filled with tea and birdsong. One Saturday at the local market, I saw a mother with her laughing baby, and I felt a gentle warmth, not sadness or envy. My small apartment no longer felt lonely. It felt like a sanctuary. Ben and I went to a book fair that Sunday. He was thoughtful, bringing water and snacks. We walked in comfortable silence, occasionally sharing a line from a book that made us smile. There was no pressure, no agenda. At the end of the day, he walked me to my door and simply said, "Have a good night." That piece was more valuable than any grand gesture. Weeks turned into a quiet rhythm of work, hobbies, and reconnecting with my sister. One evening, cleaning a drawer, I found one last photo of me and Noah. We were laughing. But looking closer, I saw the uncertainty in my own eyes, a shadow I had ignored back then. I threw it away without a second thought. Sarah invited me to a music night at the cafe. Surrounded by couples, I didn't feel left out. I felt whole. "Do you still think about him?" she whispered. "I remember," I said, "but it doesn't hurt anymore." Later that week, Ben messaged me. "Would you like to join me for a walk this weekend?" I smiled and typed, "Yes, that would be nice." I felt no nervous butterflies, just a calm sense of contentment. Our walk was peaceful. As the sun set, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, he looked at me and said, "I like spending time with you." I looked back at him, my heart steady and sure. "I like this too." He didn't try to hold my hand. He didn't rush. He just was there beside me, and that was enough. I realized then what real care felt like. It wasn't a storm of passion and grand promises. It was the quiet, steady presence of someone who saw you. It was kindness. It was feeling safe to be yourself. I didn't know where things with Ben would go, but I knew I would not lose myself again. I would not accept a love that made me feel small. I would love gently, speak kindly, and always, always choose peace over pain. Noah took my love for granted, but in doing so, he taught me to give it back to myself. I picked up my own heart, and I held it safe.